statement that I've said, but I said that I don't believe that the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs. I said it to McCole Hardman. Listen, you can't be one-sided. Within their division, they're the only team that is front-loaded on the offensive side of the ball. Every team has closed the gap. You look at the discrepancy in quarterbacks. You can't say Russell Wilson's that far from Patrick Mahomes. You can't say Justin Herbert's that far. But when you look at comparing the defenses, the other defenses in this league is miles ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs, and they're going to pay the price.
Just stop.
Go ahead.
My first of the season, we just go, Bart Scott is high. Already started. Ain't
You don't believe me?
Way. Listen, from a guy who played on offensive football teams.
Yes.
This is a very, very good offense and a very underrated offensive line. Probably one of the top two in the NFL. Listen, their run efficiency, which means getting 4 yards a carry or more, is fourth in the league. But they only rushed it 30. I mean, they were 31st in rush attempt.
Yes, they never run the ball, Jeff.
They will change that. They will be a much more balanced offense.
Yeah.
And last time I checked, the head coach and quarterback don't usually miss the playoffs. I can say, you talk about the Super Bowl, but my man Bart was on some good this morning. But I'm just letting y'all know, we are not going to miss the playoffs if we're in Kansas City.
Clip this.
You spent a lot of time with them this summer. What impression did you come away with?
Well, that they're putting something together that's going to look different, right? Like the key thing to understand is Tyreek Hill didn't get hurt in week 1. Like this happened in March. They've known all spring and all summer what they were going to have to do and what they're going to have to change. Andy Reid knows what he's doing. That coaching staff knows what it's doing. Now, Patrick Mahomes, still a young player. He talked to me when I talked to him about what he has to do differently, going through his progressions differently, as opposed to just like looking and seeing, oh, Tyreek's got this guy. He'll win that matchup. I'll just go to him. He's going to. But he's had the offseason to do that, and the coaching staff feels like he has made strides in those areas. I do think there's a chance they run it a little bit too.
I also think I don't think Bart's crazy. I really don't. Would I bet my house that they're not going to make the playoffs? No, I would not. But the division is brutal. The schedule is tough.
Yes.
The loss of Tyreek Hill is something.
It's a reset year for them, Brady.
I understand what you're thinking. It's going to be a question of just how bad the defense actually is. Is it below average or is it really terrible?
The last 2 times we saw them against the Bills and against the Bengals, that defense was horrible, and it was exposed, and it put too much pressure on Patrick Mahomes. We saw last year that offense went through some hiccups. Now you don't have somebody that's going to take the top off the defense. If you have a number 1 corner, you're saying, who I want to put him on? I don't want to waste him on Smith-Schuster, Valdez-Scanley. I can play you straight up. And you've never been able to play them straight up with Tyreek Hill taking the safety no matter where he goes, all eyes on him. Now it's going to be all eyes on Patrick Mahomes. Can he lead the team that way in the division that is stacked?
Yeah, look, every single team in that division has Super Bowl
I'll give you something later too, Jeff.
We'll see. These 2 guys have some business to attend. Challenge can be.
A lot of life in those statements.
That's what I'm. So what do we take away from that? And most importantly, because he can live his life however he sees fit, obviously. How, if at all, do you see what he just said impacting his ability to be all in on a football season?
0. It will not affect it even a little bit when he hits the field. Listen, I appreciate him being honest and open about his life and all the things that are coming in and being involved, whatever that is, right? That was a long statement, but the reality is he understands when he hits the field how to take this football team to the level he wants to take it to. The distractions that people talk about, film study, will he be locked in when he's on the field? When he walks on the field, man, all that stuff goes away. He is so dialed in. He understands what needs to happen. The preparation part, he can become more efficient with that if he feels like that's necessary. I'm doubting any of that applies at all to him. He will be just fine. This football team will be just fine. It's just something that happened during training camp, and he had to address it.
Dan, you made an interesting point this morning as we were talking before we came on the air, which is we're always trying to figure out which thing is going to take down Brady. And none of them ever have before.
We've given up on that.
You don't think it's going to be this one either?
No, I don't think it. Look, I mean, at some point, he won't be able to play quarterback in the NFL anymore. But he led the league in passing yards last year. I don't think now is that point. And look, I think we hear him on the podcast talking about whatever's going on. He's working some stuff out. It seems like that's an outlet for him, right, to deal with whatever he's dealing with. But when you talk to people around that team and in that building, he's the same guy. Like he has been the same since he got there. And since he got back from whatever he was doing in training camp, it locked in on the field, locked in the meetings, just like being the Tom Brady that they know and need him to be. So I'm with Jeff. I don't think it's going to be if they play badly, if he plays badly, I don't think it's going to be because of this.
Well, I don't know that there's anyone who went head-to-head against Tom Brady more frequently in their career than you, Bart, playing both in Baltimore. But he was on the offensive side. I mean, you're going directly up against him in your years in Baltimore, all those great games, your years in the Jets in the same division. I mean, what is your sense of this? Brady, what makes him great is his ability to be completely focused and locked in. Are you at all concerned about that?
Not at all, because to Jeff's point and to Dan's point, athletes, the building is our sanctuary.
That's right.
We get in there, nothing matters but football. What's the task at hand? Guys have dealt with all kind of issues outside of the building, but when you come in that building, you're locked in. You're around your brothers. You have all the support you need to be the best version of yourself. My biggest concern is that offensive line. The pressure. And also the fact that I believe that the New Orleans Saints are the better team within the division. And that's going to be what really upsets him. Can him and Todd Bowles come together, be a cohesive unit? It's a lot of moving parts in that regard. If anything takes him down, it's going to be a football issue. It's not going to be a non-football issue.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say that Bart just said it really struck with me. The uniqueness of a locker room and the ability to block out all the other factors in your life. It's like no other. It's not like other jobs where your phone's ringing or somebody. I mean, when I tell you it is laser focused and it just, for whatever reason, it totally takes you in a different mindset.
Right, and so it's easy to understand why the balance in work-life balance becomes more complicated and why he might not have felt he could manage it. Now, obviously, he's in.
We've all done.
Bart just brought up the offensive line.
Yeah.
That's the obvious. That's the most obvious pressing question. You're an offensive line expert. How worried are we?
Concerned, not worried. Left guard for me is going to be an issue. Their center will be just fine. Mason at right guard will be just fine. The left guard, they will have some issues trying to figure this out. But here's the deal. You got a guy's 45 years old. He's played, 20 plus years in the NFL. He understands how to manipulate the pocket and how to get help where he needs it. If he feels he needs it, it will not be an issue that will cost him this season.
All right, so that's the Brady of it all. Buccaneers open with a monster game Sunday night against the Dallas Cowboys. A few people may watch that. In the meantime, our next stop is Baltimore, where we are inching closer to Lamar Jackson's self-imposed contract deadline. Ravens begin their season, of course, on Sunday. I want you to hear John Harbaugh talking over the weekend about the lack of a new deal still for his franchise QB.
He's hopeful to get a new contract. We're hopeful to get him a new contract. But all the rest of it is business. I mean, there's nothing other than coming to something that's mutually agreeable. That's the way all these deals are done, So, obviously I'm very hopeful, and I think I know everybody's really hopeful to get it done. My interactions with Lamar have been all football, and he's been focused and locked in on that 100% from a football standpoint.
Oh, what an excellent answer to a question, right? I mean, you can't handle that as a head coach any better than he did. But finally, from a situation where there has been no information coming out, Dan, you actually have some that I think is really interesting about just how in sync these two sides feel, even though they can't work out a deal.
Right. I think people would make a mistake to think that because the contract isn't done, there's some issue with the relationship between player and team. There's not. To the point where I've been told by people there that Lamar Jackson has actually had conversations with John Harbaugh, with the GM Eric DaCosta, about their press conferences and what they're going to say and how to stay on message with all this. So, look, they disagree on the contract. He wants more guaranteed money than they're willing to give him. I think we've reached that point, and I don't know. You say we're inching closer to his deadline. We may already be there. They have a practice tomorrow. Like that's the regular season. He may want this out. He no agent, so he has to negotiate this himself while he plays. He doesn't want to do that.